Mace is awesome, lol. I want to one-shot the Wither. You know what? Me too. Bonk. So you really can use the Mace to skip the entirety of the second phase of the Wither fight, which might make you want a Mace even more, but first of course you're going to need a heavy core. However, like Lightning Blasphemer, you might think that it's too rare right now, and good news, Mojang have said they're going to change it in this recent development video.
Heavy core is this new item, it's also decorative, you can place it and like build with it, but if you combine it with a breeze rod, you're gonna get the Mace.
The Mace.
For now, you can use a trial key for a chance of getting one from a vault, but don't expect it to always be that easy.
Oh, never mind. I guess they're actually making it harder, which raises the question of what could be harder than a 1 in 45 chance of a trial vault giving you the heavy core? What could make it even more rewarding and even more challenging? And that is a question without an answer, but I imagine it has to do with the development of the rest of the trial chambers. I think we could see some new rooms and maybe some big challenge that you have to overcome to get a heavy core, but hopefully it's more reliable and repeatable than luck-based like the current system is. That would make it a big improvement, even if it's being made harder. By the way, there's a lot of interesting things that have come out about enchantments, but first I want to talk about the brand new update that released this week. We're not talking about the beta and preview that has the Mace, but the full update for Minecraft 1.20.70, because if you have this update on your phone, you might have gotten this weird notification. I got it on my Android device saying the R20U7 update is here. This was not meant to be published and is actually the secret way that Minecraft developers refer to updates, at least for shorthand, and so R20U7 refers to 1.20 R20, and then U7 would be 1.20.70. And so we even have this confirmation from CornerHard that they also use the H prefix, so when they refer to 1.20.61, that would be R20, 1.20, R20U6, 1.20.60, and then the 0.1 would be H1. And this is one of those things that I'm realizing now is maybe a bit too nerdy and technical, but I think it's really cool whenever we get an insight into how Minecraft works, because occasionally this is very useful. Like, for example, the Marketplace Pass came out this month. You can pay a fixed monthly fee and get access to over 100 pieces of Marketplace content, and Lloyd the Zephyrian says, wasn't this leaked like a month ago? And the answer actually is yes, and kind of like this next comment says, Mojang is taking the Roger Badgman route to tease updates. This kind of is true. A lot of stuff in updates is teased on purpose, like we saw this week with the Mace, or accidentally, like we saw with the Marketplace Pass, which had more leaks and unofficial announcements than anything from Mojang before it actually came out. And so just in case you're curious what we learned from the latest preview, beta, and update, Smokey Stack has been diving into the game code, and interestingly, the sound folder is called the Windswept Mace. This gets a lot of people curious as to whether they're going to be renaming it or whether this was an old name, but I think I have the answer to that accidentally because myself and Olraf spoke about this briefly, and he said this.
We actually talked about that. And we, like, some things that were suggested was, like, for example, Windy Mace, right? Because it used the breeze rods or something like that.
Yeah.
But there is no other weapon like that in vanilla.
I think that means I accidentally did some primary research while hanging out with Olraf, but yeah, that tells me that the Windswept Mace might have been an old name, just a placeholder, and that seems very, very likely. The Mace does feel like it fits better with Minecraft once you actually consider every other weapon, whether it's a diamond sword, it is, just the item type and then sword, or whether it's the bow, the crossbow, or the trident. Minecraft weapons usually just have the name, and so the name and then maybe the enchantment before it is all you'll probably have to call the Mace. Just in case you're curious as to what else was found, there were these new assets in the Bedrock preview. In my mind, they're probably related to the Marketplace, but they could be for brand new events that Minecraft has planned. And also, Hardcore is coming to Bedrock, as we all are quite familiar with. It was accidentally in the latest preview, and there is a new tag they've added too that will tell you that there are some settings that are disabled because you selected Hardcore mode when creating this world, which is very, very interesting, and that means we're getting closer to Hardcore on Bedrock. That is something that is exciting to me because my goal is to do 100 days live as soon as possible. It's going to be 17 hours of streams in the first 24 hours that Hardcore has come out. It's going to be a very intense day, but by the end, I'll be the first person to have done a full true 100 days Hardcore Bedrock on YouTube. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm kind of looking forward to it and dreading it at the same time, which is how all good things in life should be, in my opinion. Speaking of all good things in life, let's come back to the Mace a little bit, because a lot of people have questions about how enchantments on the Mace do work, and we have two very interesting interesting bug fixes which kind of respond to this. So, first of all, I want to mention that the mace cannot be enchanted with Unbreaking, Mending, or the Curse of Vanishing, and this is confirmed to be a bug. It is not guaranteed that all of these will eventually be enchantable, or if they won't rebalance this, but right now that's confirmed to be a bug, and on the Bedrock version, it specifically can take just Mending and the Curse of Vanishing. Unbreaking doesn't work, and this is very, very odd. Something is specifically programmed weirdly, which affects enchantments on the mace, and this makes me think that there is a decent chance that just like every other weapon, whether it's the crossbow, the trident, the sword, or the axe, we're going to have some form of unique enchantment just for the mace. And rather than spending all day speculating about this one, I feel like my best idea from yesterday's video was the idea of leeching, so you can take health back from enemies with this. This would go a long way to fixing combat on Bedrock, but I also think you could do something like, to actually kind of use the mace's identity as being that weird weapon for extreme high risk and high reward. Why not have something which does more damage in the mace, but only based on you having less health? So the lower your health gets, the more damage your mace gets. This could also allow for more clutch and more powerful situations, but by making yourself a glass cannon. I love the idea of Minecraft playing with these mechanics, and I really do think that in the next snapshot or two, we're going to be seeing them tweaking the mace a little bit more, and also adding in these new enchantments. However, an interesting idea from Spencer Carlton, 4006, is not just enchantments for the base, but what about an enchantment specifically designed to protect against it? I'm not sure what it'd be called, but having a way for your armor to specifically allow you to have mace protection might be really smart. I think what you could call this is like crush protection, and if you just made this mutually exclusive with regular protection, then it should self-regulate PvP, and it's a good way to keep the mace being incredibly powerful in survival, where it currently is. It's basically only useful against bosses and big mobs and to be fun, but then also allow it to be nerfed for PvP, but at the same time, that would then create the problem of why would you ever use this crush protection in a survival world when there's no maces coming to attack you? So you'd have to work out some other use for it in survival, because that's most Minecraft players. Speaking of most Minecraft players, a lot of people don't even care about combat ultimately, it's just a means to an end, and Dibs82 says, what I would give for the mace to have an enchantment that breaks 3x3 blocks instead, like in modded, and honestly, I kind of like this idea. I don't think it should be the mace necessarily, I think weapons should be separate from tools, but I think it would be really great if Mojang did give us a new tool that would allow something like that to happen, or if you specifically made the mace enchantable in a way that turned it into one. This is kind of comparable to how the Riptide Trident basically stops being a throwable trident, you can't use it that way, and instead becomes a transport method. What if we had a weapon that could become a tool as well? I think that would be really cool, actually. Speaking of really cool, I think Combat Update 2.0 is something we're getting a lot of comments about, and this is something which is probably premature. I do want to say, as someone who was very much championing the idea that if Mojang is making an update where they're focusing on combat adventures around combat, they probably do want to touch up the combat at the same time as well. I made a video about that last year after the announcement. I do have to say the odds of getting the full Combat Update 2.0 are going down as we're getting closer to release, because it would take quite a bit of time. Either they have to repurpose all of the features they've made so far without any changes, which they could do any moment they decide to, or they could make the little changes and they could make the tweaks, but this is going to be something which is going to take some actual time from them, and they are running out of that, and there's quite a few 1.21 features which actually need to be finished. And so, is the combat update going to be coming fully in this version? I don't think so, but I hope, given that we're getting the mace a major rebalance to the combat, that they do see that the way that this is balanced on Java and Bedrock is so hugely different that maybe it requires some fixes to some areas of the Bedrock combat system. I think that would be really great. I think if you're not going to have faster regeneration and you're going to have infinite crazy high one-hit KOs, it's going to be a bit of a problem, something which I hope and believe that they can and will maybe fix. Speaking of can and will maybe fix, to be fair, there is a counter to the mace: end crystals. You just have to time the explosion as the player wielding the mace is falling towards you. I have some bad news for you, because this update also brings in a counter to the end crystals, because the wind charge is really effective at lots of things, but one of those is being a perfectly straight projectile. So if you see an end crystal, even a very, very far away one, if you can just shoot a decent shot at it, which admittedly is easier than it seems, you can destroy end crystals from insane distances that weren't even imaginable before, which is really, really fun if you ask me, but also very, very, very wild to say the least. Yeah! It does not matter the insane distances you get. If you can just land one of these shots in the right direction, you can take down an end crystal from anywhere, even if it was directly below you, planted by another player. And I kind of like that we've got really, really, really powerful buffs to so many types of weapons, but I love that this does mean that going to the trial chamber before the end will actually help you, because there are a lot of players who are terrified for basically that reason. Oh, I also imagine, you know, I'm not saying that people are going to do it specifically this way or anything, but if you really wanted to, oh, that was odd. Okay, I'm going to try that one again. Here we go. Okay, oh, yeah, we do one more of these, and just like this, we can end up at the top of the tower without ever having to involve a an ender pearl. I wonder if you can shoot through this gap. I'm pretty sure you can't. Okay, no, wouldn't recommend trying either, by the way. But yeah, the wind charge also is a great counter to the huge decrease in full damage that you could have, because in the same way that if you're flying an Elytra and you let go and for some reason your Elytra dies, just launching one of these at the ground will save you from that. It also can be used if you're, say, trying to get the dragon from a crazy distance, and oh, this is terrifying. But it also will save you if you somehow miss that, or you know you're going to miss that before you hit the ground. But as you can see right here, it is a strategy that is very, very risky. It feels so good when you pull it off, and not very good when you don't pull it off, which is one of the ultimate things you've got to keep in mind. Speaking of keeping in mind, I got a really interesting comment this week from CatLord98765, who says your render distance is large enough to see the outer end islands from the main end island, and yes, this is true. Here is me standing on top of one of the end pillars. As you can see, I can see all of the outer end islands. One of the big good things about Bedrock is its optimization. If you're playing on a fairly decent PC, you get 90 chunks. Even if you're playing on console, now you get 36. You get some insane render distances, but one of the downsides of this is simulation distance goes up to 12 chunks, but is usually set to 4, and so you can see these end dragon attacks literally stop simulating, freezing in midair, because they're outside of 4 chunks. 64 blocks is not far enough away for things not to exist, in my opinion, and it's very, very weird that that's how Minecraft treats things, but that's one of the ways they get a lot of that performance back. Speaking of getting performance back, I want to read this comment from Taylor Hillard, 4868, because they say they wish they knew about the 2-tool flower thing earlier, would have saved me so much time emerald farming, and it's a really good point, because a lot of people learn about exploits when they are fixed in updates, which I think is generally good. I think there are lots of bugs I take a very ethical stance to, not sharing things that will make your game worse for you, and also not making your game worse for you because other people come in and abuse it, and that is something I am very keen and clear about doing on this channel. However, there are quite a few bugs that exist in Minecraft that will be patched out eventually, but are really, really fun to enjoy while they exist. You know, they're more fun and interesting and maybe useful, and so I've just been collecting a lot of these together, and hopefully we'll share them before the next update comes out. Speaking of the next update coming out, I hope you've enjoyed this Q&A Saturday. The Mace has been one of the biggest changes for our community, and I think it's really fun because it raises questions not just how it is right now, where I think it's pretty incredible and crazy, but also in its future and how it will be following itself through the snapshots. Also, the heavy core is a really interesting question because it's going to get a new way to get it that will hopefully be more reliable and also more challenging. What does that mean? Is there a mini boss? Is there going to be a whole new room where there's a real crazy trial you've got to go through? In either case, I'll be checking out the trial chambers and the new changes they've made in tomorrow's Seed Sunday, as well as diving into these big questions and things like the entrance room and why they seem to be making them harder and harder. We'll be doing that with tomorrow's Seed Sunday. It'll be a lot of fun, but for now, I hope you will enjoy this one, because I'll see you next time. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the other side. Can you play my outro, but with other side now? Thank you.